But let's these vibes that and we're going to explore the live. It should be in another place like all are having a wonderful morning, evening, night, midnight special, whatever time that this is coming at y'all. Enjoy this atmosphere now that we all in the same boat. We can start the conversation. We back at it in Assassin's Creed, this wonderful place taking place in ancient Egypt. Right now I'm on top of Khufu's pyramid. Got the limestone with the pyramid. Oh, we gotta look that up again, but we was on top of this in the last one, and this capstone, which is not there anymore, they recreated for us to see in the game. But what we're gonna do today is travel to the library of Alexandria. Remember, guys, Just Tai is when you combine your mind with your heart, connect those two circles, and you let whatever come out just come on out. Just come on out, guys. That's scary for a lot of folks to let whatever come out come on out. A lot of people got some hidden stuff. But hey, when you ain't scared of the hidden, even if it seems forbidden, a lot of people in the circle, you come to like good later. But yes, guys, as well, new today is that Denver is got psilocybin mushrooms on the ballot. May 7th is the final day to vote. So if you're randomly in Denver watching this, make sure you vote. Because there's a lot of people not voting, so like they voted so far. And I know there's more people that live there than that. Alright, so here we are. Make sure this is alright on tablet. Cool. So here we are in Greece. We're at the library of Alexandria. We're about to enter into there now. Look at the tiling on the floor. Like the amount of detail that's in there. Alright. And this is the entrance. Look at the symmetry of it. To be so grand and made back then, the math was on point. Or at least the architects in mind. Alright, let's go. Yep. It's about a 7-minute tour, discover the history of the greatest library in antiquity, and learn about the great minds of the ancient world. The last time the Library of Alexandria actually came past my mind was during my last trip. When I was, it just came to me while, it's just a random thought, gotta be true or not, just kind of, but why the Library of Alexandria actually disappeared. And it's because of all the corruptness, all the crazy stuff that was going on back then. Them books was like, we getting up going out of here. We going on. Like they literally burned and turned into smoke. And that was their exit. And like, we gotta get out these people. Use our knowledge.
Welcome to the Great Library of Alexandria. Near the district of Royal Palaces and within the Moseon was the most famous library of all antiquity. The Library of Alexandria was built to house all of human knowledge. At its pinnacle, the library was believed to contain over 700,000 parchments.
Ooh, because they have books, they have parchments. And they're going to Lighthouse in the back, the famous lighthouse. We're going to check that out too in another episode. But right now, we have this right here. We're going to check it out. Remember, the details of this game is really particular. Like they made sure it matches what historians were talking about. You see, they got the obelisk right there. You'll never expect an obelisk. And they actually have obelisks in Washington, D.C. as well, like little ones in random places. I think these are like energy generators or something, because they got inscriptions all up and down. Oh, sorry about that, bro. This is outside, people just studying. Like, it was a place of learning. This was a place of learning. Scholars, it was an honor to be able to go inside and leave your town to be able to go to the Library of Alexandria. It's not like they was able to drop a card or stuff like that. So the locals here was really, I don't know. Did the locals have access to this too? I wish I knew Greek. So you see they got the Greek and Egyptian right next to each other. This storyline takes place around when the Greeks was just starting to interact with the Egyptian Empire and Cleopatra. You know, Cleopatra was one of the last pharaohs.
Throughout the centuries, fires and wars between Christianity and paganism destroyed the library, leaving nothing behind. The loss of the building and more importantly, its vast collection is immeasurable. As no descriptions are available, the team's rendition of the Library of Alexandria was inspired by the visuals of the Library of Chalcis at Ephesus.
Ah, so this how it was. So because of Christianity, they destroyed all this knowledge. So it's like what I was saying before, what I was saying, the books just had to go. But still, that's probably like in the fifth, sixth dimensional thinking. It's like, we gotta go. And it came in the form of these Christians now saying, yo, this knowledge gotta go. Y'all pagans with y'all nature worship, taking these plants and hallucinating and worshiping all these gods. It's just one God. It's just one God. Who are y'all? What are y'all doing? So with that, they burnt down.
Throughout the centuries, fires and wars between Christianity and paganism destroyed the library, leaving nothing behind.
And you know, that kind of war still
The loss of the building, and more importantly, its vast collection is immeasurable.
Religions.
As no descriptions are available, the team's rendition of the Library of Alexandria was inspired by the visuals of the Library of Chalcis at Ephesus.
They said, oh, these guys don't know about Jesus. They're pagans. They're devil worshippers. We must destroy everything that they know. Like, what mind is that? That's terrible. What mind is that? It's wild. It's wild how divided we are. United we stand, divided we fall. Right? I'm just pushing everybody. Oh, here we are. Here are all the parchments. So these books, these rolled up like scrolls. So they's able to put a lot in there. Oh, that's pretty cool. It's so huge in there. Project the tour. I just want to look around. Wow. Just Tai, guys. Just Tai.
While much of the collection was purchased at the government's expense, the library also obtained books through other means. Any books owned by travelers coming through the city were seized to be copied for the library.
What?
The copy would then be returned to the owner, and the original entered into the library's collection.
Oh, so they was real about these books. They was real about the knowledge. What's going on, King, guys? We're in the Library of Alexandria right now. Show this on Facebook. But yeah, they go back over that again. Any books owned to were seized to be copied. So they took it like, yo, we're gonna hurry up and copy this down. Nowadays they will they probably photocopy it real quick, put it on the scanner. But back then, if it was a long book, that person really had to hurry up and copy it down. At least they gave it back. There's no Aristotle, Plato, or Pythagoras. I don't know. I'm gonna see if they pop up in this game. But I know Plato and them, they visited this library. Like all the huge scholars back then, they make us read about. They was all in the library. Let's go to the next spot.
Alexandria offered unrivaled intellectual and cultural attractions. Eminent scholars from Athens, Rhodes, and other Greek centers traveled to the city to learn and engage with other free thinkers. Both the Moseon and the library were at the center of groundbreaking ideas and creative expression.
Oh, that's wild. That would be wild if they was just a whole concept used to push an idea and they never really physically existed. But here they were saying Plato, I mean not Plato, just free thinkers period just came to this library. It was like LA.
The great minds of antiquity were usually well versed in many disciplines, which were often associated to specific schools of thought.
I'll check out the Discord.
The Peripatetics, the Stoics, and the Cynics were among the most well-known schools of the time. It is clear that Alexandria lived up to its fundamental role as a city for intellectuals, nurturing many great minds whose impact reverberates through our modern world.
Yeah, well-versed. They was well-versed in many disciplines. They was mostly artists. That's why everything is real particular, symmetric. They was into music and knowledge, all at the same time. The trifecta, the trivia. Dogs want to come in. But yeah, they were. This wasn't even this before the Renaissance.
Hypatia of Alexandria was a Greek mathematician, philosopher, astronomer, and inventor.
Oh, woman.
Though born in Greece, she eventually migrated to Alexandria, like many great minds of the time. It is there that she became the head of the Neoplatonist school of Alexandria. From most accounts, she was highly respected by her fellow Alexandrians, both as a teacher and a philosopher. With her death, the age of great ancient scientific discoveries came to an end.
He said white success. But yeah, the Greeks in particular, to stick to the Greeks, there's a lot of colors of skin. Oh man.
Callimachus was born in Cyrene and educated in Athens. After his studies, he moved to Alexandria to work in the Great Library. A poet and a critic, he strongly rejected the epic format of Homeric poems, and instead fervently supported a shorter, more judiciously formulated style of poetry. His epigrams and elegiac poems were emulated by later poets. His work was extremely popular, second only to Homer's own works.
What's going on? O'Brien? I thought to say O'Reilly. Thanks for coming by. I'm in the library of Alexandria right now. All those parchments was. I mean, I keep saying books. All the parchments. Because the Greeks, they was collecting all the knowledge and things like that. And that's what was saying during my trip too, King guys. It was saying that Alexander the Great wasn't like, and watch that thing, I was saying, I don't call him the Great, I only say the Great just so people know who I'm talking about. Yeah, that's what I was getting into, right as you typed that. During my trip, I was like, yo, Alexander the Great is not, Alexander the Great is only, yeah, I just said, I'm not gonna repeat it again. But all this library knowledge was destroyed because these books was like, yo, these humans are not using our knowledge right. Like the humans was the parchments, the library was burned as from the Christians burning it as well, because the Christians burned up all this knowledge because they thought it was all pagan worship and things like that. But as well, the books used that as an exit strategy to get up one out of here. Because the Greeks, they straight up in this game, I should play it through. They show how the Greeks was taking over the Egyptian culture slowly, like from the peasant side up, not even just from the hierarchy. They show how it was in the hierarchy, working with Cleopatra and Caesar and all of them, all the way down to how they had people out in the streets trying to change the minds of the Egyptian people that we need to welcome this Greek society and things like that. And there was other Egyptians saying, yo, we don't need these Egyptians. We don't need these Egyptians. I mean, we don't need these Greeks. We cool. It did take hundreds of years. It took 100 years, but when it really switched over was when Cleopatra married Caesar. And that's when it really, things were starting to take a board, when Cleopatra married Caesar, because she was one of the last, like, full-bred Egyptians to take the reign as pharaoh. Once that was over, it was all up to the Greeks. It was all up to the Greeks. Alexander the Fake. Yeah, it was pale, but it was still striving. Remember, Egypt is still one of the longest reigning civilizations, like to be a city. America only been here for 300 years. The Egyptian was over for 3,000 years, so I still give them a little credit. But just like now, we becoming weaker and weaker in America, and somebody else gonna try to take us over.
It was in Alexandria that mathematician Euclid, the father of geometry, wrote the Elements, laying out the
Oh,
foundational work
lucid.
of what would become modern algebra and number theory. Euclidean geometry would become one of the most influential systems in the evolution of mathematics.
Inclusive. I love geometry. And his geometry, he talked about the sacred shapes too. I was thinking about the isohedron, the dodecahedron, sacred geometry. He talked about that as well. But this is where he came from. I just want to see if they wrote on here. I wish we could go in first person. Oh, I can take a photo. Wait, can I zoom in though? There we go. It's all in Greek. Can't read this. That's some thin paper. It came out on the other side.
How do you calculate the circumference of the Earth with a camel, 2 sticks, and shadows cast by the sun? This is what Eratosthenes of Cyrene described in his principal work, Geography, while he was director of the Great Library of Alexandria. He is credited for the invention of the armillary sphere around 250 BCE.
Well, show the armillary sphere. I want to know how it looks. Calculate the circumference of the Earth with camel, 2 sticks, and shadows cast by the sun. They could have went a little more detail about that. But he was the director, so he probably had a little know-how. Because I was looking up something about Leonardo da Vinci, and they were saying how he created this overhead aerial map that was like never done before, and he was saying how he actually did it. And it did have to do with measuring the shadows of the sun. Let's burn this place down. Hey, what's going on, Astro Way? It's been a while. Can I swing on here? I doubt it. Alright, let's finish this tour. Let's go back to the pyramids and stuff.
The earliest known and most complete armillary sphere of antiquity was the Meteoroscopion of Alexandria, with an imposing 9 rings compared to the 3 or 4 of most other astrolabes. Known as the zodiac Krikatoi amongst the Greeks, the Meteoroscopion was used to determine the location of celestial bodies around the Earth. Every self-respecting astronomer of antiquity would have sought to use this tool to better understand the celestial movements.
Yeah, astrolabe. An astrolabe, I got one on my iPad, a digital astrolabe, but it tracks the position of the stars so that you can make astrological decisions and stuff based off of, so you can see if Saturn is in Taurus, is it squaring Jupiter and Sagittarius, so you can see all of that. And this was like the ancient form of it. You see they got the, go ahead, come back here. You see they got the, what is that? The symbols around it. They got the Aquarius. Can I get this in there? There it is. Aquarius, Pisces, Cancer. They got all of that going around there. There go Gemini, Cancer. I mean, there go Cancer. Get the crabs, Sagittarius, or that Scorpio. I'm all off right now, guys. But all in all, this is the astrolabe in order to track the stars. And this was the ancient one they used. You can download this app on your phone too. And sometimes I like to just look up what it is, like what's in the stars, and see how it compares to my natal chart. And my natal chart is what stars was in the sky when I was born. And the natal chart is also specific to your geographical location. Like you have to put in the time you was born as well as the city and state that you was born. so that it can really get precise. Because all that matters, all this generalization, just oh you're a Leo, or oh you're a Sagittarius. That's just your sun sign. You got a moon sign, an ascendant sign, where your Mars is in your chart says some stuff. And then when Mars is somewhere else, and you compare it to where Mars has been in your natal chart, a lot goes on. A lot of lessons you can avoid, or you can see a lot of stuff coming your way. I got something about Saturn, that old timey guy, being in retrograde right now. Saturn is in retrograde, so a lot of things from the past is going to be showing back to us in order to see if we really got over it or not. And depending on your sign, it depends on which way it's going to be coming at you. Known as, it's just, I thought it was going to let me interact, like turning around and stuff like that. But yeah, I didn't used to believe in astronomy. My mom always would like be into it and stuff like that. But once I really started just looking up stuff randomly,
Pythagoras of Samos was a well-known and respected philosopher and mathematician. He is best known for the Pythagorean theorem. However, there is proof that the theorem existed in Babylonia and India long before Pythagoras was born,
yes, it did.
casting some doubts as to who exactly originated the theorem.
Yeah, Pythagoras ain't make the Pythagorean theorem. He just put his name on that. Like King guys was saying, the Greeks, they was good known for putting their name on shit, slapping a label. they was acting like the corporations of the day. Like, oh, I made that idea. We made that. Coca-Cola runs the world. But yeah, I recognize these charts. This is Pythagorean theorem stuff. Oh, we completed the tour. Now they're the Pythagorean theorem, so you can figure out the area of a triangle. But yeah, so was that? Oh yeah, Babylon.
Pythagoras of Samos was a well-known and respected philosopher and mathematician. He is best known for the Pythagorean theorem.
As well. And they were
However, there is proof that the theorem existed in Babylonia and India long before Pythagoras was born, casting some doubts as to who exactly originated the theorem.
And it was also in Egypt. Like, these Greeks literally came to Egypt, found the Pythagoras theorem. It was something I ran across before in a video talking about Pythagoras, the origin of it, and it was an Egyptian thing. They didn't write it out and spell it out like the Greeks did it, but the theorem was still there, and it was written on an Egyptian text. And y'all know how messed up people get about how old Egypt is. Like, Egypt is not probably 5,000 years old, but we trying to date the Sphinx back to 10,000 years ago. So if the Sphinx was 10,000 years ago, how much older are the other monuments are there? And if the monuments are that old, the people gotta be even older. They had to exist for a while before they said, oh, well, all right, it's time to build some pyramids. It's time to build some monuments, some obelisks. So the Egyptian culture go way back. Way back. Or the people that eventually we call Egyptians, because they didn't even call themselves Egyptians. The Greeks called them Egyptians. They were in Kemet, the black land, the land of sand and stuff like that. And they probably had grass laying around that time too. So it's a lot of terms that get tossed around. Alright, let's get out of here. But yeah, what I was saying about astronomy, I used to believe in astronomy until I was like looking stuff up randomly, and then it slowly kept growing on me because I would just forget, like, oh well, yeah, that was just another generalization. But when I started getting specific, looking into my charts and things like that, looking at my astrolabe and my natal chart, and really going on psychedelics and letting the psychedelics be truthful to me, not like trying to block out and say, oh well, that's not me, I ain't like that. But really being truthful, like, yo, it's being important. It's on point. But King God said, I could show that we go back, the Egyptians go back and stuff 2 to 3 million years. Hey, I don't doubt that. Alright, where else could we go in here real fast? But 2-3 million years, that's, I never heard that far back, but I don't doubt it though. I don't doubt it. What's another pyramid? Let's go with another pyramid. No. Let's just go, where should we go? Try to go to Memphis real fast. Then the pyramid. Oh, wow, I forgot I had this. This show does not condone serious face. This show does not condone the use of illegal or legal psychoactive substances. Do not create anything that you see on this channel. It's for documentational, research, comedic purposes only.
Welcome to the City of Memphis. Throughout all ancient Egyptian periods, cities had one thing in common. They were situated along the Nile's shores. Cities were often designated for government or for worship. Major cities had several temples dedicated to numerous gods and goddesses. Egyptians referred to the organization of their cities as a sepat, or later on by the Persian term nome. There were 20 sepat in Lower Egypt and 22 in Upper Egypt. The capital city of ancient Egypt changed many times over the periods.
Oh wow, that's cool. This is something to look into, because a lot of people were saying, and I say it too, that the cities that we live in now in existence seem like they're comparable to a circuit board, as if we're a computer chip in some big computer, and things have to be arranged a certain way so that the electricity, so to speak, just tie with me, so the electricity can move a certain way in order to power the motherboard. So we see now they saying the cities in ancient Egypt, they were situated along the Nile shores, water-based, but they were designed for government or for worship. So they were placed in specific places, specific areas on the earth, probably going along some ley lines. If I know about the ley lines that make a grid across the earth, and sacred sites have been put on there. But I think it get even more specific than that, so that you can get to put cities in different areas and be attached to these lines. They said major cities have several temples dedicated to numerous gods and goddesses, referred to the organization of their cities as sepet. Let's look up what look that up on Google real quick. Oh. And they say that it was later switched for the Persian term, nome. So they literally changed it, but it was called sepet. And on Wikipedia, they say the Greeks changed the word from sepet to nome, but here they say Persia did. But sepet, I really want to know why it's called sepet. But that is some kind of cool energy grid, some kind of very cool energy grid going on. Because they use terms of worship, but that worship is just all dealing with energy. Worship is the term we put on it, translating it from Greek to English. Oh, this is beautiful. This is beautiful. Let's look at this knot over there. We need a translator. See, we got the sacred bull, the apis bull, got the falcon right there, like a Horus-like thing. And I say Horus because I see the sun. Got the pharaoh. You can see the Ankh right there. And I just like looking at this stuff, though. That's cool. Let me go to the other side real quick. This was the city of Memphis. Real popular. I remember seeing it in all the movies. Alright, that's cool. Let's continue this story.
One of the largest was Memphis, located in Lower Egypt. It was a key center for religious temples, including their most important deity, Ptah, god of creation.
Ptah.
Thebes, located in Upper Egypt, competed with Memphis and featured as both a political and a religious center. Two important temples, Luxor and Karnak, were built there.
Luxor.
A minor capital of the Tai dynasty was the city of Sais. This was the last native Egyptian capital of Egypt.
Oh, so this was the last native capital of Egypt. Memphis was the last one to stand. And that is huge. Look at the tiny people down there. Like the hieroglyphs of people are bigger than the actual people. And it keeps going up and up. Till you see Ra at the top, the sun serpent Ra. And yeah, this game is real accurate. They put a lot of time into this game. I think the games that they be putting so much attention into like this is the games that don't really be extra popular, like Fortnite. This was as popular as Fortnite, we all would have been involved already. But the largest. So this was where Ptah, the god of creation, was worshipped at. Thebes was part of Memphis. Ooh. Let's keep going. And they got the people just walking around doing their daily life with their brown skin. Hey, what you looking at, bro? Come on, bro. And I like how they like glance at you too. I like that detail. Oh, you asking me for something. That's why you looking at me, bro. Go ahead. But this how they lived in Memphis around the time that the Greeks got there. They wasn't flying on their magic ships anymore. And the construction too. There's a lot of sticks and ropes going on. And the way their houses is built out of stone. That's all they had to say about Memphis? Oh, there we go.
During the Third Dynasty, under Pharaoh Djoser, Memphis became the first religious and administrative capital of Egypt. Even when the political capital of Egypt decentralized itself, pharaohs were crowned in this sacred city in order to legitimize their ascension to the throne, up to and including Alexander the Great. Though little remains today save ruins south of Cairo, we can guess at the structure of the city, which stretched up to 5 kilometers in length and 2 kilometers in width.
Oh, wow. So did Alexander the Great so-called try to crown himself a pharaoh? Oh, let me look this up. Alexander the Great Pharaoh. No, I mean Egyptian pharaoh, not pharaoh. Well, anyways. Alright, yeah. Well, what did they say again? Alright, so they came to Memphis in order to be crowned, because by this time, this was like, they say it was the first religious city in Egypt, but around this time it was the last remaining native city, so this was like the only place they had left to connect them with what was going on for all those years of past. So when they wanted to say, oh man, I'm gonna be Pharaoh, they had to come here, just like they go to the White House and things like that. Like, you gotta get sworn into the White House in that front lawn with all those people looking at you. They came to Memphis for that study. So what's going on with DC? What kind of energy is in DC? Because Memphis got something too.
Memphis was also referred to as the city with the 100 doors,
Yeah,
or the White
I'll put it
Walls.
on there. I'll put it this way.
These names were in reference to the wall which surrounded the city. Under the protection of Thoth, god of craftsmen, the city was a thriving religious and economic hub.
So that spirit of Ptah, craftsman, a lot of people was having ideas of being able to be of craftiness. So that's why it was able to thrive. People was doing a lot. Their mind was open. Like when I see gods and Egyptian gods, I see that as keys that they use to unlock things in their own psyche. I want to try to pronounce that. Oh, I see it. Got Ptah in it. Oh, I see it. How it goes into the actual word of Egypt. Oh, I got it. That's cool. That's a cool synchronicity. Yeah, man, we coming with all the knowledge today. All the notes, guys. Take notes, guys. Y'all watching this in the future? Y'all future folks, make sure y'all taking notes. Alright, I'm gonna go to the pyramid real fast. Oh, the very first god given to the... So they let him rule over the first city. That's cool. I want to see one of the big ones. Let's see the step pyramid. Alright, we're back in the desert lands. We left Memphis. That looked like Memphis over there. Hold on one second. Alright, we're back. Right into this. This took some time. This is about a 13-minute tour. We're probably gonna make it about a good 20 minutes though. But the number station's 20, learn about the layout of the first stone, how it's been erected by mankind, and the step pyramid complex of Dosher. So according to the historians,
welcome to the step pyramid complex of Djoser.
Structures.
The step pyramid is at the center of an enclosed complex, comprised of temples, models of palaces, and artificial constructions, all built for the afterlife of Pharaoh Djoser. The funeral complex itself covers 15 hectares and is located on the highest point of the Saqqara Plateau. It's clear from the elaborate detail and scale of the complex that this was a technological marvel of its time. The only fragment of information regarding the design plans of the complex was discovered on a section of stone containing an architectural sketch of a vault.
That's the only information they got to the design plans is on one stone. Look at all of these stones. All of these stones. And they only had design plans a little bit that was left on one little stone.
The Step Pyramid is the first monument built of stone. Standing at 60 meters high, it was the tallest of its time. Built 4,700 years ago, it was originally intended as a mastaba, which was a flat-roofed rectangular tomb. Its famous architect, Imhotep, may have felt this was too humble for the great pharaoh Djoser and began to add the steps.
I remember Imhotep, and I remember him first from the movie, The Mummy. The Mummy they resurrected was Imhotep. But Imhotep was a great architect, an awesome architect, great designer, and we see now they give him credit for building the first pyramid, or the first stone structure, so to speak, for King Joseph. And yeah, Imhotep, I think he was in a lot of, Imhotep was a real important person. They even more than they even let out right now.
The Step Pyramid complex is enclosed within a 1,600-meter-long wall that is 10 meters high. This large wall was made out of white limestone and oriented along the north-south axis.
Astronomer said the Great Pyramids were there before the Step Pyramids. I wonder why they are saying this is the first. I don't know. Let me see. Step Pyramid Dozier. I'm seeing what Wiki says about it too. The problem, Ashaway said, the problem I find with Egyptian culture is that it is money. There are multiple civilizations stacked on one location. That's how I see it. That's how I see it. Like the Egyptians that King Oz talking about 2-3 million years ago was in the same geographical location as the culture that took on a different name and then a different name, but still had the same aspects of like that of knowing who they were and having the technology to work with who they was as well. But yeah, that's why we live talking about this, so we can bring in all the perspectives. Because it was built in the third. I'm looking on Wiki right now. They say it was built during the third dynasty. And they credited too for saying one of the first strong. But yeah, the Great Pyramids and the Sphinx and stuff. Like they're saying, even alternate scientists now are saying that the Sphinx is at least 10,000 years old, not just 2,000 years old, like mainstream says.
While there are 14 doors, only its eastern door was intended to accommodate the living. The remaining false doors were built as portals for the King's Ka to pass through. Along with false doorways, the walls were designed with bastions and steeples resembling a defensive wall. The positioning of these design elements suggest that they were related to the Hebset festival.
Alright, what is that? What is the Hebset festival? But that's why I like these pyramids though, because they was technologies more than all the stone and all the history and all that stuff. I just like the fact that they were, in my mind, mostly probably used for the pharaoh or the high priest or this to be able to leave their body, like they said, or false doors, portals for the King's Ka to pass through. So while he was probably in that pyramid doing his thing, probably, I don't know, these structures was there, and it was also there in the other realms. or something like that, or played with the energy so that his ka can travel to another dimension. Like literally. And the Het Sed festival, also known as the Feast of the Tail, was an ancient Egyptian ceremony that celebrated the continued rule of a pharaoh. Oh, that's what it was. The name is taken from the Egyptian wolf god, one of whose name was Wet-Wawet, or Sed. That's cool. Such as, yeah, it was sons. I found early records that say the Great Pyramids were constructed by Atlanteans as one of the 12 colonies. That's why they were red, black. I mean, and my lady argued about the purpose of the pyramids. I don't have the answer. I can only explain what it does now, and that significance. Yeah. I could see the Atlanteans doing something, they had to leave some kind of clues or something behind. Their whole civilization and everything, they could have just been taken away just like that. I'm basing what I say the technology of the pyramids based off of what I see I'm able to do off psychedelics, and what I've been trying to practice myself for years, just getting my mind to be able to meditate and leave my body and form visions and things like that. So they had something, went in there, took their medicine and things, and they traveled. And set and setting, you know how they always say set and setting is so important? Imagine doing mushrooms or DMT in this kind of set and setting, where whole structures are set up in order to help you, guide you through certain things, or you got to the point of mastery where you're able to use these things while you're tripping in order to do something.
The only real entrance into the complex is at the end of a long, narrow passageway.
That's the only thing I know.
This enclosure has a stone canopy carved to resemble wooden logs.
Ooh.
At the end of the passage is a large opening, meant to resemble a doorway, movable.
Permanent hinges that they can't move. It was false doors. All right. I think, and then we had these Sphinx right outside. So they probably came from all the way down there. I'm not gonna run there because I don't have my horse. Or can I call my horse? No. Oh, now I know how to do first person. Alright, there we go. We got some. No, that's still kind of slow. Well, y'all know. They came from all the way up there, and they was just like, oh, wow, am I tripping or what? I must be tripping. All these copies of the same thing. And then they kept going. So I'm preparing for this to come up phase. They're coming up, walking into here. Nope, they got the same.
The corridor is lined with 20 pairs of columns up to 6 meters high, built by stacking stone drums. The completed facade was made to resemble reed stock bundles. Traces of red paint were found on the columns, along with black paint on the support walls. This would have had the effect of blending the walls into the shadows to give the red columns the illusion of standing on their own.
Ooh. And it's probably way more prevalent back then. There's a lot more red. So the red just looked like it was floating. That's nice. I might try to recreate that. Man, you can't fight me, can you? I'm not playing the game. Stole my soldier! No hate. I know, look at the detail. Like I said, you can climb up everywhere. See from an aerial view now.
Chambers are located on either side of the columns and are thought to be chapels representing the provinces of Upper and Lower Egypt. According to some Egyptologists, the arrangement of the rooms may be symbolic of jurisdiction and judgment.
That is nice. That's not made out of ivory. That is beautiful. And if I knew exactly what it means, it would probably be even more beautiful. Of jurisdiction and judgment. There's nothing on the control.
Guarded by a line of carved snakes, this tomb is located at the southern end of the courtyard. The burial chamber is beneath it, down a 30-meter deep shaft. The low-ceilinged chamber resembles a mastaba and is relatively intact compared to the later burial chamber. The tomb is made of pink granite, though there is evidence it was once polished limestone. Too small for a body, it is possible that the tomb was intended for the king's ka, or to hold the canopic jars containing the king's organs. Later traditions in burials would have the canopic jars in the same chamber as the body.
Oh wow, too small for a body. It is possible that the tomb was intended for the king's ka, or to hold the canopic jars containing the king's organs. Atlantis had 5 sets of twins, 10 not 12. Thanks for the update. But I'm gonna type that in so I remember. Atlantis. Yep, there we go. Earth's ancient history. But that's cool, the Ka. And just so we get, hold on, just so I'm not confused on what this is. Egyptian. Yeah, Ka in ancient Egyptian religion with the Ba and the Ka, what Ak is AKH, a principal aspect of the soul of a human being or of a god. The exact significance of a ka remains a matter of controversy, blah blah blah. But it represents your soul. The thing that's not the thing that's right here waving at you. Or the thing behind the scenes that takes off during the strips. The thing that's always thinking. Or something like that.
A polished limestone staircase leads west from the tomb to underground apartments. Some of these rooms were intended to accommodate the king and his family in the afterlife. Many large jars of pottery were found, including some that still had deposits of beer, milk, and oil inside them. The false doorways are decorated with reliefs of the king taking part in rituals. In these reliefs, he is seen carrying agricultural tools, running, and performing a ritual for the reanimation of the deceased.
That's cool. Yeah, I just looked up something else. It said, let me just read this real quick. The ancient Egyptians believed the soul had 3 parts, the Ka, the Ba, and the AKH, the Ak. The Ka and Ba were spiritual entities, this part I never heard before, were spiritual entities that everyone possessed, but the Akka, the AKH, was an entity reserved for only the select few that were deserving of Ma'at Karu, K-H-E-R-U. Their beliefs were that the living were responsible to help the dead journey into the afterlife. I didn't know that separation was ever existed. The living had in Egyptian terms. The living had a duty to help those who had gone before them and to those who will come after them by building and maintaining tombs. Tombs were the interface between time and eternity. Their belief also included the preservation of the deceased body. The Ka was essentially a person's double. It was the life force, and at death it was separated from the body. The voice, so those who hear the bell, those who hear the ringing and go towards it in the pursuit of curiosity, wisdom, and philosophy, whatever terms come to your mind. Wow. Yu-Gi-Oh! I'm thinking about the show. When Yu-Gi unlocked the puzzle and he was literally possessed. That whole show was about him being possessed by an ancient pharaoh king, who was the king of games, the king of all of this game stuff that go on. And he did look like you too. But yo, that's cool. The reason for extension and elaborate preparation for the body for the afterlife was to ensure the Ka had a home. The living would sometimes provide bread, oxen to feed the Ka for the afterlife. They also believed the deceased body would have to resemble the past living body as much as possible so the Ka could recognize his body, and then the Ba would return to it each night after spending time in the sunshine. The living would leave more than just food for the deceased possible. Yeah, they're getting into something else too. But that's cool. The Ma'at Karu, hear the truth, the voice of truth. That's nice. I'm just soaking it all in.
The architect Imhotep chose stone as a building material in order for the complex to last.
There he goes.
Following the completion of the initial mastaba, Imhotep devised a burial of more ambitious dimensions. He set about stacking mastabas on top of each other. Evidence shows that the pyramid was enlarged twice by additional cuts into the steps, eventually reaching 62 meters in height and 121 meters by 109 meters at its base.
I was dozed off. I was not listening. Follow the company. They're showing that they think that he came up with the idea of the step pyramid by stacking mastabas on top of another mastabas. Like, oh, let's stack these up. Get closer to the sun. I can't, guys. I tried to do my iPad. Hey, it's possible. You get closer and closer to it. And the closer you get, the more silent you become.
A staircase allowing the pharaoh to enter the divine world was represented by a tiered pyramid, oblong in shape, completely enveloping the original mastaba. The pyramid itself is a solid structure. All of the chambers and tunnels are beneath the structure.
Oh, so they have chambers and tunnels beneath this structure. So the top part don't even matter that much, just like in the other pyramid. And this is a sketch from 1849. Yeah, it's cool hearing all these different terms that all that's all interpreting the same idea from the few.
Pharaoh Djoser the Sacred was the founder of the Third Dynasty. He ruled for 19 years. During his reign, he was known as Horus Negereket, divine of the body. He was given the name Djoser several centuries after his death as a sign of respect, and he is regarded as one of the greatest pharaohs of Egypt. An apocrypha was drafted in his name during the Ptolemaic period, 2,500 years after his death.
Wow. So he was so special to the culture that they gave him a name 700 years later. They're like, yo, we gotta put a new name on this guy. Keep this guy's spirit alive, because it was so powerful, and it still has causing a vibration in this world that it wants us to give him a new name so he can stay fresh and clean. And he was only there for 19 years and made that dramatic of a difference. Divine of the body. So he was really in, he knew some stuff. He was connected. But what was his original name? Because you know, pharaohs, they usually had 3 names. They were Hebrew, Horus, Jesus. Yep. Was gone for 3 days, came back, resurrected as the son of the sun. All the same allegory going on, even down to the name. I'm trying to find out Dosher's. No, not Dosher's name in hieroglyphics. But what was his other name? Tutmos the Third? If this is Tutmos the Third, let's keep it walking. Let me run around while I'm talking. I gotta stay still. Yep, the golden name of Horus contains Dosher Karu. I was looking at that. This goes on, right? Man, according to PlayStation 4. And it's backwards. I just thought of that. My bad, guys. Yeah, they had a throne name, a pharaoh name, and a birth name. That's what it was. Birth name, throne name, and the golden Horus name. Oh, they even put some more ones. A Horus name, a Nebuti name. So if you think you got more than one name to your personality, hey, they've been doing that for thousands of years. You're not crazy.
Djoser was associated with the sky god Horus in his human form.
Oh, they just said it.
A plinth near the step pyramid is inscribed with his name and associated with Horus. He was the first to reside in Memphis, making it the central hub of government for the region. Djoser was known to have built many temples and monuments before the complex at Saqqara. The funerary complex was the first of its kind and would mark Djoser's greatest architectural achievement.
What you mean? Djoser was associated with the sky god Horus in human form. Wow, for somebody to call you Horus in human form, you shining, you on fire. Funerary complex. And we explored Khufu's funerary complex too. It's in Astroway said it seems like this Egyptian civilization we talk about now are just trying to imitate the past civilizations with their pyramids. I can see, yeah, as if like this is what. Oh wait, hold on. My mind just went to 5 different places. It split into places to talk. Yeah, I see what you mean. That they're trying to imitate past civilizations and what they was doing. Because probably even the past civilization, they probably didn't even build these things. They probably just went to these places. Like literally went to these places, and then the other ones was like, well, a lower form of that technology, a lower. Hey, actually, let me put these in, please. Thank you. Go to me. All right. Okay. So as I was saying, is that the ancient civilizations probably went there, and these people probably like had a lower form of that technology where they had to build and imitate it by building these pyramids.
The funerary complex was built to resemble Djoser's palace, with the stone carved to imitate mud brick, trees, and reeds. Creating these details and softer textures in hard stone would have been a time-consuming, labor-intensive task. Much of the complex is designed to accommodate the Hebsed festival, allowing the king the ability to affirm his rule even in the afterlife.
Oh, so even after he was gone, y'all like, y'all gonna remember me when I'm gone. Y'all gonna remember me. Or remember this Horus. Remember the Horus. Remember the sun. Because the Pharaoh didn't just represent himself, really. He represented the God in flesh. He represented the higher forces here walking about. And that's what we all have. That's what we all can achieve, too. Here. Ask your mama finish this. Alright. The funerary complex was built to resemble Doja's complex palace. And remember, the Hesed festival was used to celebrate the Pharaoh. That's pretty cool. Yeah, you would think if I got spinning here over the moon.
In the corner is a temple referred to as Tai. This temple is among the most mysterious structures in the complex. Its outer facade is plain, while inside it is decorated with intricate jed pillars and carvings. It's possible that this place was intended to be where the Ka of the king materialized, symbolically visiting the platform of the Hebsed courtyard from the afterlife.
Guys, this is where the king materialized, symbolizing visiting the platform of the city. That's always, yeah, these pyramids, I don't know how the mathematical calculations really are with the step pyramid, but I am familiar with the pyramids at Giza. We was traveling those in the other video, and how it lines up with the North Star, the Orion's belt, Sirius A and B, like to the precision is there. And the Great Pyramids is like a perfect square all the way to the point of 0.05 meters. That's how accurate it is. That's how accurate it is. But with these step pyramids, step pyramid, let me see if it has any star align. If it has any star alignments. And the smoothness of it, the limestone that was put over the Giza pyramids.
The Hebsed festival enabled the pharaoh to maintain universal order and renew godly powers. Through a series of trials and religious rites, such as dance, offerings, and visiting the sanctuaries of various deities, the ruler's vital force and divine nature was confirmed. The celebration was meant to represent the ruler's jubilee, and would take place every 30 years, though the deadline was not always followed. The earliest known ritual dates from the First Dynasty.
Oh, they say the funerary side of this North Temple faces the North Star. And there gotta be something to it. But yeah, as you're saying, there's no hieroglyphs inside. The asteroid says no hieroglyphs inside the inside or outside. We was noticing that yesterday inside of there. I was noticing that. I said there's no hieroglyphics. And at first I was blaming it on the game. First I was saying, yo, the game didn't put it in here. But it's just not in there. It's just not. It's also numerology aligned with the speed of light, which adds to the wonder of pyramid, meaning fire within fire, being light. Yep, they calculated the speed of light way back then. That's what I think. And just like now, like, what if we just forgot about even more? Like, we still got these glimpses of the Egyptian culture, and still go farther back. What if we didn't know about none of this? I just figured as humans how we still get to interpret these same fields of information in different points in time. Because Einstein didn't know about Egypt and all of them, but still, he still had that looseness and lucidity to calculate the speed of light, which comes out to be the same as what has been said in other cultures of what the speed of light was calculated to. So it's something about the genius, and genius only means to be inspirited in my world. It only means to be inspirited by a genius, to be inspirited by your higher self, to be in connection with these forces, to hear that voice of truth. But I used to be real into it. I feel like this Egyptian is just as miraculous as Rome, but not close to the precision of the past. Yeah, it's very, very, very miraculous. But when you don't got the technology that they had back then, you can't do the same stuff. I'm just walking around this T thing. They said there was hieroglyphs in here. I don't see any. Einstein knew of ancient Egypt, but his shit is, wrong. The speed of darkness is what is meant to be studied. Darkness borns light. Yeah, I don't know about completely being BS, but I know it's a lot more to it. That's why dark matter, well, what scientists call dark matter and things is what they study now. But dark matter, but I think once you even get into the dark matter, that breaks out into even more different fields of energy that just from this point of view, we just see it as dark because just metaphorically, it's so far away. It's so far away from our awareness right now. Like the more you go into the dark, the more you see some light in there, and then the darkness, the dark just get even darker. We just keep on going. It just keeps going and going and going. But what I was really thinking about was the how he calculated the speed of light for being 186 meters per second squared.
Within the complex of Djoser, southeast of the pyramid, is a dedicated space for this essential ritual to be performed by the king even in the afterlife. The Hebsed courtyard is lined with false chapels and equipped with a platform featuring 2 staircases meant to represent Upper and Lower Egypt.
But MC Square, I just think because MC Square was so powerful that they made an atom bomb out of that crazy ass equation. If Einstein come out with that, we still had parts of Japan. Well, Japan would have never came across anime. That bomb made them all trip out. But yeah, that was a tragic situation. Maybe Justice would make the trip about it. But yeah, once we start working with the energy, the equations that deal with the darkness of things, that's when we're going to have real technology.
Located in the courtyard, the 2 pavilions are believed to represent the palaces of Upper and Lower Egypt. Rectangular in shape, the 2 replica structures face one another. Their facade is similar to the chapels of the Hebsed ceremony, with column crowns carved to look like falling leaves. Because Queen Hetep-Hernepti and Princess Inetkas's names were discovered on a stela near the pavilions, it is thought that these funerary chapels were intended for them.
Like I said, Masons, original Masons, main access, sun, X, Y, ray, light, Mason, my sun, ray. Masonry. Yeah, these words don't come out of nowhere. Yep, I was just saying that, Masonry. Yep.
The funerary temple is on the north side of the complex, facing the stars where the deceased ruler was believed to travel after death. Within this temple was the pharaoh's serdab, or cellar. It is a small, enclosed space with one wall sloped to match the first step of the pyramid.
You know, the Masons was the stone Masons. They was right here doing this stuff right here, calculating.
The north wall has two observation holes. A statue of Djoser is seated on the throne, wearing a mantle and a tripartite wig with a crown known as a Nemes. Representing the king's Ka, this statue looks through the observation holes into the courtyard, enabling the king to observe the ceremonies and receive offerings in the afterlife.
They was big on this offering thing. The only thing I need to offer is my time. Time and attention, which is right. But this faced the North Star when you look outside the pyramid. I would have never knew that was in there. So it looks out that way. Let's make it nighttime. Nighttime. Like the Masons, the sun. Where's the guys repping the moon? Those are the ones that's always getting cut out. The guys repping the moon. That's where I'm at. Sun and the moon. So it faced the stars, faced the North Star right there. But how did I do first person? There we go. Beautiful. That completes the tour of the step pyramid. Yeah, I'm down there what I usually do. I'm gonna climb to the top of this thing. I think it's just, it goes up, and then it's at an angle. It's not even flat. I thought it was flat, and then it just was another thing stacked on top. These convenient slots in the pyramid for me to climb up like this. Oh yeah, it just so happened to be a crack area for you to jump up. Now that was a journey. And they got the moon out during the daytime. There you go. Alright guys. I think I'm gonna end this right here. Or unless y'all want to travel to another place. They got other pyramids. They got the riddles of the Sphinx. If y'all wanted to go there real fast, well, that's about 15 minutes. Probably turn into another half hour. So up to y'all. Or me having to use the bathroom. So what they got in here? They're talking about how Sphinx Anubis theory. Oh, they go in about how that wasn't the original head, the god, and it was originally a jackal head as the Sphinx. I remember that. The Stella, the Dream Stella. Where's the... I think I'll be right back, but I'm gonna leave the image of the pyramids right here. Yeah. Yeah, we back in. What we gonna do? We're gonna go see the riddle of the Sphinx. What are your thoughts on Atlantis? I think Atlantis was one of the Astroways said this. What are your thoughts on Atlantis? I think this is one of the I think that was one of the breakaway civilizations. Like they say that they say that everything was destroyed for like by cataclysmic catastrophe and things like that. I just had the vision of that one of my favorite Disney movies with Milo. Oh, the dog I have now that I'm watching for a week is named Milo. That's funny. But in the movie, the Atlantis movie, the main character's named Milo, and he discovered Atlantis, and they had this whole language and stuff. And side fact, the language that you find in that movie, they hired a person. Let's get on the script. They hired a person to create a whole written and spoken language just specifically for that movie. So I'm like, yo, where'd he get this information from? Or if he was just like making it up, it probably is something to it that consciousness wanted to get out in that movie. But in that movie they was kind of still there. But my own thoughts, I think that they went somewhere else. Like they learned some techniques or something like that, and then they left Earth. Or if just to combat my own self, they was probably destroyed or drowned or went underwater. Like now they city exists somewhere in another dimension underwater or something like that. I have a lot of thoughts. But I want to travel if possible. I remember True Life over True Life Stories channel. He was saying how he saw Underwater City. Yeah, Exifis. What's the title? What's the title of that place? What do they call themselves? But Astroway said the Atlantis was found in Africa. Because I looked at evidence and it seems like it's definitely the location. Was it like an underwater place, or was it some stones they found? Atlantis. I know it's probably a lot of evidence that you was probably looking up, more than just like a couple facts. But, But I see it say ancient maps proves the lost city of Atlantis is the eye of the Sahara. The eye in the Sahara Desert. And they say the Sahara Desert was dry for like innumerable amounts of years, like so long. That, it seems like exactly what Plato describes. I hope this video saying it's a video going around claiming proof of Atlantis in the Sahara. Alright, that's a whole nother hole I'm gonna have to jump into. That's cool. Yeah, that's what I was looking at, the eye of the Sahara. I'm in it right now. They say this video is making rounds claiming proof that Atlantis existed in northerner Africa. And somebody made a video. But this is just somebody's thoughts on it. I want to see a video for myself. Make a video. I mean, make my own thoughts. Yeah, that came out last year. That's fairly new. It's a lot of stuff from 2018 talking about that. Swallowed by the sea. This story was passed down through and through his grandfather, also named Sitis, who got it in turn from his father, all these other Greek guys. Alright. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm gonna check it out. See about the Sphinx. Whoa. Wait, let's see what they did with this before I go up to it. I don't think I've run into this before.
Welcome to The Riddles of the Sphinx. A sphinx was originally meant to be a personification of the king. The human head, wearing pharaonic regalia, was fused with the body of a lion, thus sharing the qualities the powerful animal possessed, namely its power, the swiftness of its attack, and its majestic authority. By these very virtues, it was also considered a symbol of protection. Unsurprisingly, statues of sphinxes could be found along the dromas, protectors of the path taken by the gods to reach the temples.
Along the dromos, protectors of the path taken by the gods to reach the temples. We already got a heads up that we're going to run to the other theories.
Over the centuries, enthusiasts and historians alike have wondered, who built the Sphinx? For what purpose? And who does it represent? These questions remain unanswered. Several theories do exist, however, some more credible than others. One theory supposes that Jetafre chose to pay homage to his father Khufu by building the Great Sphinx of Giza. The stone temple on the eastern face of the Sphinx would have been added later on by his brother and successor, Khafre, in order to strengthen the divine worship of their father. It would be the first Egyptian temple oriented with the sun.
The first Egyptian temple orated with the sun. So this is when they started getting that sun worship. Now, I like how this game got the heat waves over the city. Like when you look far, you can see it. Like, that's cool. Nice detail. Yeah, but who built the Sphinx? For what purpose and what does it represent? And shout outs to Grant Hancock and all the other researchers coming out saying that the Sphinx is really, really, really old because, let's go next to this. They say they also say the rain marks of the weathering on the rocks around it took place before the Ice Age. Before the Ice Age, based on the weathering that they found around the rocks and around the Sphinx around this area, it dates it back to before the Ice Age, but the last Ice Age was 10,000 years ago, 10,000 BC. That's a movie too. And as well, they said they scanned underneath of the stela, the dream stela, which is right here. We're gonna get to that on the tour soon, I suppose. But they said that they scanned the ground underneath of there, and they found that it's something underneath. It's something there. And it's like, is it some stone tablets with some knowledge or something there? Yeah, Rush is so small, he's so big. But that's what it is. That's what they discovering now. And all this evidence is just slapping Egyptologists in the head of like what actually was going on like that.
Another theory suggests that the Sphinx was built by Khafre and was meant to represent him. The arguments to support this hypothesis are based on the fact that the limestone beds used for the main work of the Temple of the Sphinx are geographically and architecturally similar to the Valley Temple of Khafre. Some believe that Khufu himself built the Sphinx, which was later finished under his successors, Jetafre and Khafre. These arguments are based on the stylistics of the engraving, the typology of the nemes, and the absence of a beard at the time of construction.
These arguments are based on stylistics and
While ancient Egypt as a whole leaves a rather monochrome vision of its monuments and statuary, it is vital to understand that in ancient times, absolutely everything was painted. The sun, eating away at the pigments of the colors, the sand, the climate, and the implacable impact of time, unfortunately destroyed the glorious colors of the Sphinx of Giza. Documents from an Arab Egyptologist of the 12th century, Abd al-Latif al-Baghdadi, indicate that traces of red were still visible in his time. Today, however, the only color that remains are traces of red close to the ears of the Sphinx, as well as hints of blue and yellow on the nemes, traditional colors for that type of headdress. The pigments for the color red were man-made, obtained by mixing different products such as clay, quartz sand, and very finely crushed hematite.
you can just go to the art store.
Red had a strong symbolism in ancient Egypt. It was both the color of life and the color of death. It could represent the sands of the desert or the brilliance of the sun. Red was also associated with the god Seth, vengeful and destructive. The Egyptian word for red, deshur, is also the word which was used to signify the desert, or the royal crown of Lower Egypt. In art, red was also the color used to paint the bodies of men, while yellow was used for women. It is possible that there were also color restoration efforts during the Saite period about 600 years before Cleopatra's rule, as indicated by notes on the inventory stele, discovered in 1858 by Auguste Mariette. It is because of this that the team made the decision to display it with its full range of colors, even though the Sphinx's colors would have likely faded by Cleopatra's time.
Yeah, so Cleopatra didn't see none of this. It wasn't all red and fine and dandy like that. Why do they use yellow for women? Yeah, this comes up better on here than up there. I can see the chat a lot faster. The Egyptian government is the worst. It seems like they have no respect for ancient civilization. It said that they are the ones tasked with preserving ancient structures. If you get them enough money, they will let you have a party inside the Great Pyramid. Come here. Come here, Milo. Milo. Come on. Come on. Barky, barky. But yeah, that is sad. That is sad. In the Turkish, even the Aramaic countries, they destroying all the Sumerian temples and all the ancient cities. Like, they literally destroying them over there. But the Egyptians, they selling the artifacts like this. They're like, yeah, $2 million. Like, they don't got the accent though, but $2 million for that. Just, it's all about money now, man. Yeah, you have a party. But yeah, if you say, can I do some mushrooms or hold a ceremony in there, they be like, what? How would you want what?
Dating from the 4th dynasty, approximately 2600 to 2500 BCE, the Great Sphinx of Giza is the oldest and largest sphinx that we know of. Carved from a natural limestone outcrop, the Sphinx measures 19.8 meters in height, 73.2 meters in length, and 14 meters in width.
Ooh. Pretty big. Gigantic. The stones are not that was used to make it are not as big as the pyramid either. And a completely different kind of stone.
In order to bring polish to the imposing monument, several blocks of limestone were added after the initial construction phase. Since then, there have been numerous attempts at preservation. The polish present in the game integrates some aspects of modern restoration attempts. The team made this choice to present a more iconic version of the Sphinx of Giza to the player. Today, the Sphinx is called the Terrifying One. This appellation is translated from its Arabic name, Abu al-Hal, which in turn was derived from Baluba in Coptic.
Baluba. I think Coptic was the language that was spoken in Egypt as well. The Terrifying One. So I'm not even calling it the Sphinx. We call it Abdullah. People are like, what are you talking about? You don't know about the Bahuba? It sounds like I'm saying, I sound like ancient aliens when they were saying Quetzalcoatl and Machu Picchu. Oh wow, that's cool. Terrible. So it was meant to bring a certain essence of fear to shake you out of your body. Alright, let's climb up.
The Sphinx as a whole was carved in situ from a natural stone promontory. Its head was built in a limestone peak of the Yucatan Plate, and the body was sculpted in the underlying rock layer where it is located. The degradation of the Sphinx is due in particular to wind erosion and the different quality of limestone used in its construction. The level of sodium contained in the groundwater which abuts the stone is also a contributing factor.
And that's what was getting people in that video riled up too about what was actually going on with the pyramids and being used to generate electricity, because they speculating because the salt water and the water that exists underneath the chambers and the limestone and the currents conducting things going on. But my first thought, I was saying that this how they seen it a while ago, long time ago. It wasn't even fully undug yet. And then they kept digging, so it was no way they can tell that it was even older by checking out the rain marks to see that it took place before the Ice Age. So I ain't going to kill them for their judgment, but they set us back a bit. But I'm happy that now we've been able to get this new evidence with this technology to really date these things as best as we can, just come closer to the truth. This whole life is about becoming as close as the truth, coming as close to the truth as we can. But then, like, what if we come so close to the truth that we just die? Like, oh, alright, you got the truth. The game over. But, yeah, it was different layers of limestone on there that they was using to keep restoring it and keep it up to layer it. And we found out those great pyramids was all with limestone. You see how smooth and things they are.
The natural bedrock is seen through the oblique natural strata of the Sphinx's body. Limestone.
My bad, I cut off a little bit. So the natural bedrock is seen through the oblique natural stela of the Sphinx's body that are similar to the surrounding limestone. That's an actual picture of how they see it in 1909. I don't know, what did they think they were looking at? Oh, that's a beautiful shot.
Since antiquity, people have always believed there was a hidden tomb deep within the Sphinx. It is thought that attempts to plunder the Sphinx began as far back as the First Intermediate Period. Since then, numerous attempts to pierce the Sphinx's secrets have been carried out, leaving indelible scars upon the monument.
So that's why it's all beat up too, compared to the pyramids that's right there. Even they took the limestone casing off the pyramids too, and the golden cap that you see down in this game. They took a lot. But it's even more. It's the new technology and new people trying to get the treasure. But at least now if they do this all on camera, they can't just hide and say it was never nothing there and secretly sell it. And they gotta at least, this time they at least get to tell us, or somewhat show us what's there.
12 meters long
Yeah.
and cut during pharaonic times, another entrance in the back of the Sphinx aroused curiosity. Although Thutmose IV attempted to seal it off, it was possibly reopened
They
by
stole
treasure
those 10
hunters.
guys.
It was rediscovered by Howard Vyse and mapped more recently by Mark Lehner. This
Mark
entrance
Lehner.
at the back of the Sphinx leads to different cavities of a few meters each, in directions going inside the statue's body and under the surface. The team has used this opportunity to extrapolate a little more.
Oh. Can we... So it's a back entrance to the Sphinx that was shut off and people eventually opened it back up. I've never heard that before, guys. Just die. Right in his ass. Can we go in there though? Oh, they extract. We got in the Sphinx. Right in the Sphinx. Yeah, I mean, it seemed like with the stream at the beginning. But it came right at the right time when you wrote that, because it was just talking about how people was messing up the Sphinx in order to try to steal his treasure. And they always hidden treasure underneath. They was trying to steal it, literally. But look at these jars. They got the unk right there. That's probably an energy device. Actually, this is the game developers extrapolating what it's like to go inside the Sphinx, like once you go inside that door. See, jump into the darkness. Gorgeous. Lighting. Oh. So is this like towards the head? This is how they think it looks underneath? With a tomb or a sarcophagus at least? Let's see. They could have put a little more info. It's like the game developers want to say what they be thinking and knowing, and they show you, but then they still don't tell you everything. Like, they ain't just put this part in here for no reason. Like, yeah, this is just what we think it looked like. So we just spend a couple $100,000 developing this little area just for you to walk in. But we don't really know. We seen it here first. Get back out here.
While there have been no major discoveries pertaining to the Sphinx of Giza in recent years, theories and hypotheses continue to emerge. Without validation provided by archaeological sources, however, they remain unsubstantiated.
Yeah, we still talk about it. Actually said the burning of the Library of Alexandria was the worst crime of human history. Yeah, we was talking about that in the beginning. It really was. If I said those books was like, we gotta get out of this dimension. These humans, they gonna use this knowledge for those parchments. Those parchments, I was like, we gotta get out of here.
The first of the main theories as to the Sphinx of Giza's meaning posits that the Sphinx was originally a massive representation of the god Anubis. Its principal arguments are that the head of the Sphinx is disproportionate compared to the size of its body. The second theory believes that the representation of two sphinxes on the stela of Thutmose IV would indicate that another stone sphinx had existed on the site itself, possibly even in paired symmetry on the other side of the Nile. However, neither of these theories can be verified in any way.
Anubis, guardian of the dead, judgment. That nigga that's gonna judge you when you go over there. Some people say on DMT already got judged. I think we always being judged. That's why we feel that connection to it. We're not judging the way that we would think though. But what if that was a jackal head and they just wanted to totally change the symbolism? But you know, they said this was the first one monument, so to speak, that was dedicated to the sun, as opposed to a star like Sirius or Osiris or any of the other ones. This one was the first one to be dedicated to the Ra. I would think Ra is the sun god, the sun, that star that exists in our solar system, our closest star. Anubis. What would be the use of the change button?
Several scientific projects using new technologies have been put in place in the past decades. The most important was led by Mark Lehner and his team, who specialize in the study and survey of the Giza Plateau, including the Sphinx site. The mapping made it possible to see the materials used to construct the Sphinx, analyze the different layers of erosion, and figure out the most fragile areas to protect. After a few attempts at giving the Sphinx artistic proportions, the team instead decided to use photogrammetry mapping to faithfully reproduce the proportions of the Sphinx. What the Sphinx of Giza represented during its construction and how the Sphinx was perceived by the Egyptians of the New Kingdom are two very different matters. Originally a representation of the king imbued with the power of the lion, the Sphinx was eventually viewed as a direct representation of the most divine. It is theorized that kings of the New Kingdom believed that the Sphinx of Giza was the one who recognized and legitimized the ruler of Egypt. Thus, despite the fact the Sphinx of Giza was partially buried under the sand during his reign, Amenhotep II knew that the monument was of great importance.
Yeah. So they was trying to hold on to as much as history as they was able to. And this is the thanks to Amenhotep III, after Amenhotep II. Well, obviously. Just Tai guy. He says that the kings of the new kingdom believed that the Sphinx of Giza was one who recognized. That's cool. So back in the day, it was the straight divine, direct representation of the most divine. Yeah, Nas put his head on the Sphinx when his album cover.
Amenhotep II built a second temple dedicated for the Sphinx as Horamakhet to pay homage to Khufu and Khafre, his predecessors. It became a common habit for this dynasty to spend time with their royal courts at the Sphinx. Its sanctuary became known as Setepet, the Chosen.
Say. There we go.
Egyptologist Mark Lehner believed that Amenhotep II built a statue of himself anchored between the paws of the Sphinx, likely to legitimize his reign, alongside a stela found by Salim Hassan. Many other pharaohs of this dynasty, such as Tutankhamun and Ramses II, also left marks of their passage in a similar fashion, sometimes even stripping the stones of nearby temples and pyramids to do so. Amenhotep II's son and successor, Thutmose IV, was a frequent offender.
Many other pharaohs of studies, such as Tutankhamun, like Martian approach to manufacture, some even stripping the stones in nearby temples and pyramids to do so. Wow. So they was taking apart the technology just to show their reign.
While sleeping between the Sphinx's paws, the future Thutmose IV saw in a dream the god Horamakhet proclaiming his coming accession on the throne of the two lands. This was, of course, on the condition that he remove all of the sand covering the Sphinx, which stood guard as the personification of the god, and should thus never be engulfed by the sands of the desert. The 15-ton dream stela built by Thutmose IV to commemorate his dream was discovered by an Italian Egyptologist, Giovanni Battista Caviglia, in 1818, when he undertook the task of freeing the Sphinx from the sand, which had yet again covered it. Caviglia was looking for an entrance into the structure of the Sphinx, but instead he discovered an open-air chapel and stelas between the paws. Ashes from a ceremony were still present. Protected by sand, they quite possibly were from the last ceremonies in Roman times.
Just gotta cool down. But yeah, I heard about that. Like you brought it back to my memory that they did say that the builders came from Atlantis. Probably was a YouTube video I was watching at one point, but I can back that up. That they did say that a colony of Atlantis. history go deep. That's why bloodlines, I think, run deep too. Probably not deep, but I think bloodlines got like, keeping track of that stuff, or not knowing where our bloodline really is coming from and things like that, tracking our own selves. They all got something to do with everything. And the more that we are experiencing like these psychedelic realms or whatever other realms we're doing, we're able to really see where we come from and see who we are. What if we got some Atlantean blood? Or something. We all humans though, we all kind of unlock the same things, but still. Something to, just tie, something to tie about. You're looking at these hieroglyphs. There we go.
That same year, Caviliot had probably been added during the New Kingdom. If many of these pieces are held by museums in Cairo, a fragment is displayed at the British Museum, along with a piece of the uraeus that was on the Sphinx's headdress. It is believed this fragment of beard was possibly kept in place thanks to the statue of Amenhotep II, which was supposed to be located under the head of the Sphinx.
I was supposed to hold it up. It won't just chip off and break.
A popular cultural legend purports that the nose of the Sphinx of Giza was lost during the time of Napoleon Bonaparte to the cannon fire of French soldiers in training. However, engravings from before the time of that campaign already depicted the Sphinx without a nose, indicating that it had been removed before the French campaign.
Oh, okay. But still, it's removed. It didn't just chip off.
The most plausible hypothesis is based on the research of the German historian Ulrich Harman. During the 1980s, Harman compiled medieval sources written by Arab authors. In doing so, he discovered that the Sphinx was once perceived as a favorable omen, a deity supporting sediment-nurturing floods and crops. Around 1378, a Sufi by the name of Muhammad Saim al-Dar could not stand this vision of the monument, and in an iconoclastic act, broke the nose of the Sphinx. According to the texts, he was then hanged and burned between the legs of the Sphinx for his crime.
Whoa! Most possible theory around 1378. Somebody just took the nose off. Who that people took it off? Oh yeah, that's how it is. Supporting the beard so it doesn't fall. Oh yeah, because I see Thoth as just a representation of that same guy, Hermes Trismegistus. And Hermes Trismegistus is just a Greek interpretation of Thoth and Hermes put together and taken from something even totally farther back. Oh, Thoth is also said to be, is said to be the builder of the pyramids. Yeah, I figured it out. And the scribe of the gods, the writer. Yeah, man, history. That thing was extremely dry. But yeah, guys, this way. I think I'm gonna stop out about now at this 2-hour mark. But Thoth being the builder of the pyramids. The most I know about that is him giving instructions and things on how to do, on how to actually come up with the plans. I got a video right here. How Thoth built the pyramids of ancient Egypt. Thoth, known as Enoch, or Sarid, the great builder of the Great Pyramid. He led the Egyptian race between 52,000 BC up to 36,000 BC. That is a long time ago. Thoth tablets are impermeable, resistant to all elements, corrosion. In fact, the atomic structure. What that got to do with this? When the Thoth of Atlantis or Hermes. Oh, I was right. We both was on to something. So I'm gonna read this article right now for us, and then I'm gonna end the stream after this. It says Dr. Michelle Doral, who was part of a Freemasonry organization called the White Temple Fraternity, translated the 12 tabs. They're talking about the 12 Atlantean tabs, the Emerald tablets, I think. Called the White Temple. Wait, it was part of a Freemasonry organization called the White Temple Fraternity. Translated the 12 tabs. He would divide the 12 into 13 for convenience. Yeah. These tabs were published somewhere in the 1930s and created a lot of sensation. No, this is not the Emerald tablets. Say Thoth tablets are impure. I don't know what tablets they're talking about. But it was something tied into what we were saying. It says these tabs were published somewhere in the 1930s and they created a lot of sensation. When the Thoth Atlantis, or Hermes Trismegistus, raised the people of Kim, Egypt, to the rank of a great civilization, and when it was time for him to leave Egypt, he raised, there were the Great Pyramids right there, he raised the Great Pyramids at the entrance of the Great Hall of Mentai. In the pyramid, he hid the recordings and put guards in order to keep his secrets. Later, the descendants of these guardians became the priests of the pyramid, while Thoth was defined as the god of wisdom and the keeper by those who followed him. In the legend, halls of Amati have become the world beyond the halls of the gods, the place where the soul passes after death to judgment. In the latter times, Thoth's spirit passed through the bodies of men, as described in the Emerald Tablets, a book of occult wisdom. Hey, we on to something, guys. Thoth is the one, and this is the article on matrixdisclosure.com. So shout outs to them for putting this in just one article for us to read. Thoth is the one who built the Great Pyramid in Giza. Nearly 16,000 years he led the ancient race of Egypt between 52,000 BC up to 36,000 BC, during which he reincarnated many times and left behind documents of inestimable spiritual value. Thoth was an Atlantic priest king who founded a colony in ancient Egypt after the sinking of his mother country, Atlantis. He was immortal because he had gone into other planes of existence through dematerialized. And the wisdom of immortality made him rule over the Atlantic colony. It just makes sense to me. It makes total nonsense, and that's what makes it so special. Named the Egyptians by the god of wisdom. Thoth built the great pyramids across the great hall of Amati, the world beyond the gods, where the soul of death passed. So he built these pyramids in a whole other world, they say. Well, this guy's saying he built the worlds in the great hall of Amati, including the knowledge, wisdom, writing, and instruments of the old Atlantean, and named the most trusted of his men to guard. Hey, you could jump. I can do 2 things. I can't die. Alright, there we go. Wisdom and writing instruments of the old Atlantean and named the most trusted of his men to guard them, the priest of the pyramid. They declare Thoth the god of wisdom. Hey, that's what I do. The Great Pyramid was a temple of initiation, and among those who gathered wisdom in these places were Jesus. That's even in the Bible where they say that Jesus traveled to China too, and Egypt. Solomon, sun and the moon, king sun and moon, and Apollo Nisus. I heard of him, but I don't really know who that guy is, to be honest. Like I said, their soul was able to travel. They was able to use this. In my view, they was able to use this technology, this ancient technology that was brought back in this form. Like Thoth made it into other dimensions, and that allowed them to eventually bring it here. Is what I'm just talking about. Could be true, could be not true, but that's how I'm putting it together. So it says, yeah, Temple of Initiation. And now they just talking about the Emerald Tablets and how it is written on emerald. The Emerald Tablets are of green emerald, very resistant of any other mint, made of an alchemical transmuted substance with a fixed atomic and cellular structure. On them are engraved the characters from the old Atlantic language, which reacts to the brain waves emitted by the brain of the reader. Wait, hold up. Releasing the associated mental vibration in the mind of the reader. Sahi said, just to ground me for a bit, Egypt maybe was the peak of human evolution then, so nothing came and took the credit. And look at us now playing video games a great time. Hey, I'm down with that. But I think a new peak is going to come up. It's a lot of peaks. It's a lot of crescendos in music. Well, I know something about crescendo. I don't know. I don't know too much. It's a lot of bangs. A lot of bangs in the music. Let's try to create another bang. Get us back to where we was at. Imagine if we were 200 years or 300 years ago. We would have never been in none of this. We would have been peasants. And Astronomer said, the Great Pyramids, in my opinion, for sure came from Atlantis. They are thousands. They are the colors of Atlantis. Plato says that the civilization living there at the time of the Library of Alexandria stated that the colonies of Atlantis and Egyptian history, Thoth is the builder of the pyramids and is said to have come from Atlantis. Like I said, all this is, everything you're saying is ringing bells with knowledge that's dormant in my head that I haven't been paying that much attention to. And that this awesome article on Matrix Disclosure is like really bringing everything together. It's all ringing bells to like, yo, this is a historic episode, guys. I gotta ground myself and say, please be sure y'all like, share with your friends, family, or just on social media. Just supporting the channel and supporting the message. Getting out there so we can all just keep putting more ideas into this and get an even clearer picture. As clear as a picture as we can get. The more minds come together, the easier it is. But the guy, what he was saying, to go back when he said, on them engraved characters that when you read them, your brainwave which reacts to the brainwaves emitted by the brain of the reader, releasing associated mental vibrations in the mind of the reader. And that just goes to this term that I'll be going to when it says some people can read a book, and depending on how your level of consciousness or awareness, that's how much you're going to actually get out of the book. So somebody can read something and get this, and somebody can read it and get a whole nother story, or just get the same story but like a whole nother, what people say, esoteric message compared to the exoteric, like ES, compared to the EX, like exit. And ESO, like ESO sounds to me like you're entering something, like you're entering the essence or something. And EXO is like, yo, you're just getting the external, outside information. But reading books, man, I swear it's like it's comparable to me sometimes to getting downloads on trips. And if I say I'm just gonna teleport to the top. But it reminds me of getting downloads during trips. I remember walking around the forest and LSD and getting downloads and just mushrooms. It's just cool. And it reminds me of when I read these ancient texts and just with so-called esoteric and I can't make that jump. Esoteric texts and books on alchemy and things like that, they unlock and give me a lot of insights. And it's just that when it comes to not having a psychedelic experience and get it, it's like I in the past had to convince myself that I was crazy enough to believe it. But or just now I see it as my mind being open enough to receive it. But the brainwaves having a function on how this guy thinks is very interesting. So only that means like certain minds would be able to unlock it. So like, man, it is personal. I mean, it's not personal, but it's personal. Yeah. Oh, black, red, and white. Oh, cool. That's African color too. Run. Alright, and what's the last day? Because I think I'm going to just teleport to the top of this. No. There we go. Say, almost 13,000 years BC, Egypt was boiling and many delegations of priests were sent to different parts of the world. Among these were the priests of the Great Pyramid who wore the emerald tablets as the talisman. For fearing that they could exercise some authority over the priests in the other Atlantean colonies, these tablets were empowered with the bearer of false authority. The priests immigrated to South America where they found the Mayans, a thriving people, and stayed there. In the 10th century, the Mayans colonized the Yucatan Peninsula. I heard about that in Ancient Aliens. And the tablets were placed under the altar of one of the temples dedicated to the sun god. After the conquest of the Mayans by the Spaniards, the cities were abandoned and the treasures remained hidden in the temples. Is that El Dorado? I'm thinking of that movie. And then they just go on talking about Enoch. Then Enoch was initiate. Enoch was another name of Thoth. High Priest Enoch, also known as Thoth. Get deep. Was initiate called. We get to the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch was taken out the Bible. I think I'm gonna save that for the next episode.
The view from the top of a pyramid is breathtaking. You should try to climb up there.
Nah, I didn't climb up here. I just teleported. But thank you guys for tuning in Astro Way. I'm gonna have to sign out right here. Attend to some this dimensional business real fast. Let's walk some dogs. But I love y'all sincerely. Appreciate y'all for coming by and sharing y'all ideas and knowledge and know-how and bringing this all the way up to a whole nother new dimension. But this has been a beautiful journey throughout this simulated Egypt. We explored a lot. We explored the library of Alexandria. We explored the city of Memphis, and we explored the Sphinx. So that's a cool thing. Peace out, King Oz. Peace out, everyone. Sai, he came through. And drop a like, subscribe, check out the Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, the Discord, because bitch I'll be having so we can talk while this goes on, so just not about this, so we can all just go about it while playing the game at the same time. And I'll leave y'all with this, we all tied. Do we really, Todd?